What's up, everybody? Peter X Okafor here, back with another episode of classic songs. And today we're going to do a really fascinating song, um, The House of the Rising Sun by the Animals. Man, what a history this song has. So let's jump right in. So it's a traditional folk song based on a song called Rising Sun Blues. So it's a folk song and a blues song both, and both genres. Artists from both genres have dabbled in and done this song. So musicologists traced the song initially back to the 1930s in Appalachia. But here's where it gets interesting. It goes even farther back. So musicologists have done sort of a, I don't know what you call it, studied this song and followed the what's the word? The genealogy of it, just like we do, when you're doing your ancestors. Is sort of how they do these songs sometimes. So here it goes. As I said at first, they first found it in Appalachia, but when they started digging, there's a song, The Unfortunate Rake, from the 16th century back in Europe. That's the 1500s, and then Lord Barnard and the Little Musgrave from the 17th century. So there's elements of these two songs going all the way, into the House of the Rising Sun. So in England, London, the Rising Sun means is a term they use for the pubs or bars. So rich history. I mean, this is they also, U.S. miners sang the song in 1905, and the lyrics were first published in 1925. So, background, one last interesting story. So, the very first recording of The House of the Rising Sun was in 1933, a musician out of Appalachia, and his grandfather taught him the song. And so, you do the math, and it goes back to the Civil War. So rich, rich, rich history in this song. Um, just really interesting stuff here. Now, the only other, popular song, classic, smash hit that, y- I know it has a similar history as I Can't Help Falling in Love with You with Elvis Presley. I mean, that has that same genealogy going all the way back to Europe. Um, Very interesting how that, just how all that plays out. And this is something that is common with early country songs. But essentially, country is, um, you know, a takeoff of European folk music. So a lot of those really early country songs, have their roots back in Europe, and this is one of them. And it ended up not just, but the blues folks fell in love with, with House of the Rising Sun as well. So just a fascinating history. Um, of how this song got started. Now, the question is, you know, who owns the song? I know Elvis had other writers, so I know I Can't Help Falling in Love with You had specific writers, but this song has been in the public realm for literally hundreds of years. And if you go into a bookstore, you can get 7, 8 different versions of Bram Stoker's Dracula or Mary Shelley's Frankenstein or um, The Three Musketeers by Alexander Dumas. I mean, all of those works are in the public realm, so anybody can take those and publish those. And so it's a similar thing with the song. So I don't know if anybody can truly own, but I could be wrong, the House of the Rising Sun. So yeah, just interesting stuff here. So the Animals were not the first folks to uh, publish or record the House of the Rising Sun. Woody Guthrie, early, you know, there with Frank Sinatra, but he's early, right there in the beginning of recorded music, 30s, 40s. He's considered folk, but he also influenced country. Lead Belly did it twice, classic blues man. Pete Seeger, again, um, uh, um, folk. Miriam Makeba did it in 1960 out of South Africa. Joan Baez did it in 60. Nina Simone did it in 62 live, and then later in the 60s did the studio version. And Bob Dylan did this song, in 1961 on his debut album. So this is before Bob went electric, so it was all the way folk. But interesting. Look at all these folks who took a stab at this song, and big names there, really big names. So the Animals version was released in 1964. Long version clocked in at 4 minutes and 29 seconds. The single version 2 minutes and 58 seconds. Did hit number one in the U.S. Was number one for 3 weeks. An interesting history here. So we always talk about the British invasion, and we think of, the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and the Who and the Kinks and those guys. But this song was the first song to hit number one that wasn't the Beatles. So, You Really Got Me by the Kinks was 64. This beat the Kinks, and I think 65 is when I Can't Get No Satisfaction hit number one. So, this was kind of big, and it was history making in the process, for the British invasion. Um, Rolling Stone, of course, did their magazine did their top 500 songs of all time. This one, checks in at 122. Very worthy of being 122. Because man, this is just a classic song. So the lyrics, it's a man dealing with regrets, basically drunk his life away. The drinking has ruined his life, and he tells the mother to tell her children not to do the things I've done. So there's a lot going on with those lyrics, and the song just really sucks you in. Few more tidbits on this song before we jump in and figure out why this song is so compelling, why it's such a classic. 744 million streams on Spotify. So, this song, clearly Gen Z and the millennials are digging this song. You're getting in, if you're getting past a 500,000,000, it ain't just boomers and Gen X who are in love with this song. It's everybody. Um, so one of the appeals and of the song is it's set in New Orleans, and I was blessed to live in New Orleans from 1986 to 1989, and New Orleans is of course part of the United States, but it's its own unique thing. It's really a country unto itself, and you know. I've never met anybody who'd been in New Orleans who didn't actually love New Orleans. I mean, um, the visit. The food's great, just the culture and everything else. And of course, there's all the voodoo and all that stuff, and that kind of comes through in this song and really gives it that mystical and that magical quality of this is why it's 770 million plus streams, and part of having New Orleans part of that atmosphere is what really makes that. So the opening guitar riff, I don't know how, if it's not really difficult playing, but it's the tone and how that sounds. It's a very haunting sound, and who knows? I'm sure you can go on YouTube and somewhere, and someone will, plug a guitar in and the effects pedals and show you, exactly how that sound is made in the tone. It ain't Hendrix, it ain't shredding, but boy, it sets the tone. And then what happens? That organ. I don't know if it's the classic Hammond B3. I don't know the B3 sound well enough. Some people will be like, oh yeah, they could, or that's a horn or whatever, could tell you, that, or a Fender Rhodes, I don't know, or whatever. But, that organ, you juxtapose that haunting guitar lick with that organ, and it just is it's magical. It's just, wow, it just sucks you in. And you know, even at 4 minutes or plus when it clocks in, sometimes it just feels more when I listen to the song. Just kind of sucks me in, and then I can imagine walking in the shoes and seeing kind of the mistakes this guy's made, and then he's at the bar. It's just a magical, magical song. And what happens when the solo comes? We got a little swerve here because it's the organ that does the solo, not the guitar. So yeah, it's 64. It's early in the classic rock genre, but yeah, who else, who else is letting the organ do down the road? No, no, but it works. It works because you have that juxtaposition of the that sacred organ and that you know um, that haunting guitar, that profane guitar. They just dance with each other, and it's just it's amazing, how that works. And then the final ingredient of this classic soup, so to speak, this gumbo, got to take it to New Orleans, is Eric Burden singing. I mean, you can hear the pain and anguish, as he sings. So you got all three of those elements: the organ, the guitar, and Eric Burden singing, and he just sells it, and it just all comes together perfectly, and you got this classic song that's just hitting. So yeah, the House of the Rising Sun. Now, I like my epic songs. And yeah, I would say this is the early epic song because it soars at times. It's larger than life. Particularly, with Eric Burden singing. He just, sometimes he just really belts and you can feel it. So, had fun with this episode. This is a great song. Next year is going to be 60 years old. And I tell you what, folks are going to be listened to in 60 years because, as I said, 744 million streams. It ain't just baby boomers and Gen X. It's a whole lot of you young folks also loving this song. So, hey, thanks for coming through. Appreciate you. Um, Still on 4 albums, but not much longer. Number 5 is about to drop. So check my music out here on YouTube and all the streaming services. Exodus, that under the name Exodus, and of course I got um, two science fiction fantasy novels and a novella on Amazon. So check that out as well. So again, thanks for coming through. Love this song. Love doing this episode, and see you soon.